Do like a first person, like a GTA like game, but
Yes!
you're just a meth head, so everything just goes crazy.
Yeah, and you're like, what's that? Oh my God, what is that?
Why are there aliens here? Hello and welcome back to the Salty Sarge Podcast. It's been a while, but we had to get through the holidays, and we are back. Say hello, as always, to the Salty Sarge.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back.
Hello. And we'd like to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year and all that. We had an absolutely wonderful little getaway, and we got to enjoy and relax, and we are fresh and we are renewed and we are ready to go.
Many blessings. That's right. Yeah.
Many blessings, indeed.
Ready to start the new year off?
Yes. And
It's actually January 1 as we speak.
Yes, it is.
2025.
2025. That's crazy. I would have, like, to me, every time we come up to a new year, it's like I never even fathomed that year existing. It's like, well, obviously it should, but
Right. It goes by quick.
yeah. That's absolutely insane. But what is insane is also what we like to call the average day for the Salty Sarge.
That's right. So, I was telling you that we should do a episode about just like an average day. And this was recent. So this was within the last week of just being out there. I'm back on the mean streets doing my thing. But it was just funny because the guys I work with were just like, man, like this, I can't believe this is happening. Like this day that, how this all went down. So we'll just dive right into it. The average day, a lot of people think, like, what is the average day of a police officer? Well, in a big metropolitan, I'm sure a lot of departments across the country, the bigger cities have, we kind of can relate because some of the days are just kind of, I bet they're pretty similar. But, my day usually consists of I go out there and we go available. And this one particular moment, I would say probably midday, not even midday, it was morning. We get a call of a guy that decided to jump out of a second-story hotel room. So, I cruise to that one, and because it's in my area, everybody's assigned districts and stuff. And it was my area. It was my responsibility, but some other guys were there. I was leaving another call and I heard this come out. So I thought, hey, let's go check it out. So as I approached the call, there's guys already there and they're kind of looking up at the second story hotel room, and I go, where's the guy at? And they're like, well, he left. I'm like, what do you mean he left? Like he just dove out of a hotel room and left. Like, yeah, we don't know where he went. So about that same time, another call comes in that I get assigned to because these other guys are on this one. And we called it a priority call. And it said a guy called in and said that he had jumped off of a hotel room. But he was at a location that there's no hotels. So, and he was, you got to think of it. There's blocks and miles. He was probably about a mile or two away. But where he was located, you have like the area I worked, there's a lot of hotels.
Yeah.
And that's off a major highway. And, I was thinking, we're like, okay, this doesn't make sense to me. Like, why would this guy be calling and saying he jumped out of a hotel where we're going? So one of my partners gets on the radio and he goes, hey, irony, like, how's this other, it's like we have
like
two of the same kind of calls.
Identical.
So the funny part was I didn't know the guy had left that one hotel yet. So I asked my partner, I go, hey, because I'm on the scene of this one. And he goes, yeah, he left already. And I was like, we just happened to get a call of a guy down the street that jumped out of a hotel room. He's like, that's weird. So we go cruising over there, and it's like in an industrial area, okay? What I mean by that is it's the holidays. There's nobody over there. And it was the streets, it's like it's an area that it's one way in, one way out kind of deal. So you go back, there's these big buildings, and it's along a river, and there's like grass, and there's like woods. Well, we've come pulling up, and there's this guy just sitting there on the ground. And I'm like, dude, like, what's going on? He goes, I'm just having issues. And I go, well, it says on the call that you jumped out of a hotel room. And he goes, yeah, I did. That was me. And I was like, but this isn't the hotel. He goes, no, I don't know where the hotel's at, but I jumped out of it. I go, why? He goes, because people are getting me. And, of course, he looks, out of his mind high.
Yeah.
And he's not from around here. He's from like Tennessee. And you're just thinking, okay, why would you do that? But anyway, so we're talking to him. His leg I think his ankle's broken or something. Something's not right with him.
I would imagine something's wrong, yeah.
He's like back up in the woods. And I'm like, how did you get your car in there? And it's like a little Honda, like a little speed racer looking kind of car.
Like a Civic?
Yeah, like a rice burner kind of car.
Yeah.
Like a little street racer. And it's loaded down with like hiking equipment. And this guy's like a traveler, kind of like a hippie guy that likes to like hiking.
Yeah.
And I guess he was dabbling in some new meth, he's never done before, and it like made him hysterical. But he was driving. I mean, his car was way up in the woods, and I said, "Hey, man, you probably should go to the hospital." And he's like, "No." I'm like, "Dude, like you can go in cuffs, you can go to the hospital." "Okay, I'll go to the hospital." I was like, "I figured that." And I said, "Hey, you're gonna take your car," and I said, "You get a lot of valuable stuff in there. If we leave it, the local villagers will come and they'll plumb and pillage your car." And he's like, "Yeah, I know, I saw them." And I'm like, "What do you mean you saw them?" "Out in the grass. I know what you're talking about." We're like, "There's nobody out there, dude." And he's like, "No, they're out there." It was windy and the grass was moving, That's what he thought. So he's extremely paranoid because of drug-induced things. And don't do meth. And he clearly failed DARE, the DARE program, like he failed it as a kid. But anyway, so he's like, "Yeah, I probably should do that." So we get his car taken care of, and he jumps in the ambulance. And he asked me when we're leaving. Of course, I'm kind of talking to him. I'm joking with him. I'm like, "I don't know how you ended up over here. Like this is just weird." He goes, "I don't know either, man. I can't remember." And people are just after me. So another officer calls me and says, "Hey, do you have that guy?" And I said, "Yeah, he's over here." And they're like, "You're not going to believe his room." Like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "It's nothing but toys everywhere."
Oh,
I was
man.
like, "Oh, wow." Like, "Oh, that's kind of creepy." And he's like, "Nobody's around."
That's not good.
Yeah, so it was just, he obviously had a wild night. But I kept joking with him. So the video showed him, there was video, and the second floor kind of had like a roof, like a small little slant. And luckily it wasn't the third or fourth because he would have just went straight down and probably really hurt himself. So you see it like the windows opens up real quick, like the shades, and then boom, like Hollywood, he comes out, hits the side of the roof, kind of rolls off of it, and as you can see his face, like, I probably shouldn't have done that, at the last second. He rolls and bam, hits the ground. He kind of pops up. Man. You see him kind of limp around. He's kind of looking around and he's looking behind him, pointing at like someone threw him out of the window, but there was nobody in there. Like, it was just, he was so high on drugs that, he just was out of his mind.
So he was in this hotel room. He jumped out the window thinking that there was somebody after him or pushing him out.
Yeah.
Somebody called the police on that because they saw that happen.
Yeah, a witness saw him jump out the window.
And then they called the police.
Called his car.
Then he got in his car, went somewhere else, and then he called the police?
He called the police saying, "Hey, I just fell out of a window and I'm hurt. I need help." And he's standing, like he's sitting there. I mean, it's hard to explain like where he was. It was just so weird for him to get to this location. I'm talking like he had to like get on the interstate, drive down the interstate, get off the interstate, like go down some back roads off this main road and end up over here. Like, it's not a common area. Like, only a few people know where this area is. It's not like a common thoroughfare. It's like way off the beaten path. He's just sitting there. And his car is like way off road and you can't see tire tracks. It was almost like it was like a DeLorean time machine that just poof, morphed or
just
whatever.
Showed up
boom,
there.
And I was like, whoa. And I kept telling the guys, like, "Look, that car just got dropped here." Because the grass was real thick. And then he goes, "Well, I was trying to get to that river down there." And I was like, "Oh, God, thank God you didn't have the river." Because you imagine that. But he goes, "I like to hike and stuff, But that was a pretty unusual call.
So did you tow his cars to keep you away from the villagers?
He towed his own car.
So he paid for the tow.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things. I mean, I don't really know if you really have a crime because someone's like, "What about the hotel damage?" I'm like, "Well, if he has a credit card, it goes on his credit card. It's kind of between them." And people are like, "Well, I mean, could you have?" Look, he kind of suffered his own consequences there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But He had a really cool story, though, to tell some down the road, if you remembered it. I mean, I've never jumped out of a hotel room, nor do I plan on jumping out of a hotel room, but...
Nor do I plan on taking the drugs that would induce such a thing.
Yourself, if you could be in a controlled environment with that stuff, with that kind of drug, I mean, knowing that it wouldn't hurt you and you can't get addicted to it, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I would.
I'm going to tell you right now, man, I've seen some people do some crazy stuff, okay, on PCP or any kind of drug. And I got to tell you, man, I think I would just be willing to ride that train just for a second. Just to go, okay, this is, like, I want to see what you see. Or what would be better if, like, you could get...
maybe like a VR. Yeah, like the beer goggles, but for meth heads.
Yes, like a VR program. I think we have something.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're onto something there.
We're onto something there.
You could, I'm sure if you look at some of these games, like, okay, I want to be like high mode where I'm like,
do like a first person, like a GTA like game, but you're just a meth head, so everything just goes crazy.
Yeah, and you're like, what's that? Oh my God, what is that?
Why are there aliens here?
Yeah, and and like, what is that over there? Yeah, that would be, because if you have like a GoPro on his head, as he's like, oh God, bam. I mean, I don't know, it was a wild deal. Well, and then shortly thereafter, that day, it kind of spiraled a little bit. A call comes out of a guy that lady calls in and says her son just hit her in the head with a shovel. Mm-hmm. So you're like, oh, wow, like, or is she really hurt? I mean, did she really get hit in the head with a shovel? So we cruise over there, and another guy that's high, off his high, pretty high. I get over there, and she's like, this poor little lady comes walking out, and she's got this ginormous goose egg. I mean, she looks like a cyclops.
Oh, man.
I mean, it's bulging from her head. And
clearly got hit.
Yeah, I go, hey, does your head hurt? She's like, well, what do you think, smart ass? I was like, well, okay, my bad. I mean, look, I don't know, pun intended there. And she said, my crazy son.
That's when you put in the report, refer to smartass's opinion.
Yeah. I mean, but yeah. So then I went ahead and she brings out the, I said, well, a short time later, another officer found the guy right down the street. And he's got a sleeping bag, no shirt, sticks like sore thumb. We go over and pick him up. I'll bring him back over there. And I said, do you want to press charge? She goes, absolutely. I'm going to put his butt away. And I was like, okay. And it's her son, like her grown son. Yeah. Okay. And I guess he comes on the property and he was looking for a shirt or something, just so happened to look for a shirt. She went out and started talking to him. And all of a sudden, her dogs come up and start attacking him. Mm-hmm. And he's trying to fight them off. So he picks up a shovel. She picks up a shovel and comes towards him. And he takes the shovel from her and he takes it and just writes her on the head. Well, and it wasn't like a garden shovel, okay? It was like a horse manure shovel.
Oh, yeah, like the wide.
The wide spade.
Yes.
That's what it was. And I wasn't expecting that. So she brings it out and she goes, I give you Exhibit A. I went, okay, here it is. And it's a big shovel. And I'm thinking, good God, you got hit with that? And she goes, do you think I should go to the hospital? She goes, you think there's some internal stuff going on? I go, ma'am. I go, her husband or her, it wasn't his dad. It was like her old man or her boyfriend or whatever, guy friend was like, yeah, honey, I think we should go to the hospital, and really get you checked out. And I went, that's a great idea. But the guy in the car was like, I didn't do that. I mean, I took the shovel and she swung it at me, trying to hit me with it. And he never would say directly that he did it, but I'm pretty sure he did. I think there was a tussle, and I think that he just accidentally did it. But he did knock her, damn near out with it. But, that was, and I hauled him off. He's like, what's going to happen, sir? And I'm like, well, you're going to jail. You hit your mom with a shovel, bro. Like, you can't do that. I think that's frowned upon in all 50 states.
I would say so, yeah.
And then, you never know what you're going to, when you go out there, and a lot of people, they watch, like cop shows and stuff, and what you're seeing is like 5 minutes of like fun. Mm-hmm. What's going on, but they don't see all the paperwork and everything that like booking someone in jail. that takes a long time. It's a lot of hours of work.
So just for those 2 calls alone that you responded to, how long did it take, like, to get through all the paperwork and everything?
The first one, the guy jumping out of the roof, we didn't have to do a lot of paperwork on that one. That was just more or less waiting for medical, a record driver. So that was about 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay.
Just on that nonsense. And then now if it would have, spiraled into like a mental health thing, I mean, that could have probably taken several hours, but the one arrest one, when I get on scene though, I'm Johnny on the spot. I don't wait around. I'm like, look, do you want to do something or not? I mean, I have enough time on to where I don't hem haul around. I'm like, number one, in our state, if it's a domestic situation, there's visible injuries, like they don't have a say. Mm-hmm. Like that person goes to jail. I mean, no matter what. Yeah. Now, if it's like, say you and me, we'll just call this a nuggets of knowledge moment. Nuggets of knowledge.
Nuggets of knowledge.
If you and I are like in a bar or something, or strangers, and you punch me or whatever, and if I come in, I'm like, I don't want to press charges, then nothing happens, right?
Yeah.
But if it's like your wife, daughter, brother, and he's got visible injuries, it becomes a domestic situation, okay? And if it's a spouse, you or a partner, you definitely we have to take you to jail.
Yeah.
And we've had a lot of people that don't cooperate. Like, I don't want to, I had a same deal, same day. I had a call. A lady calls in and says her son punched her in the face, and I get there, and I wouldn't say same day. I would say this within the same work set. Just around the holidays.
Yeah.
Okay. So guy was New Year's Eve, actually, during the morning. Her son, methed out of his mind, drug user. They give him a hotel room up on the north side of the state, and then he gets kicked out of there. So she's like, well, I want you to come back for the holidays. Loving mom, and she's vacuuming in the living room when he's sitting at this desk, and she hits his chair like twice, and he just throws the chair and loses it, and goes up, puts her in a headlock, and it starts beating the crap out of her.
Oh, wow.
And she had like visible injuries, and she was like, I said, ma'am, do you want to prosecute? It's better if you have a victim that's willing to, really to participate, like help you out, things like that. And she's like, well, he's my son, and I don't want him to get in trouble. And I'm like, well, here's the thing. But she was like telling me, I don't want him here though. I want him gone. And it's like, what do you do? I mean, why'd you let him back in? This kind of stuff. So then I'm like, you know what? It doesn't matter. You have visible injuries. He goes to jail. Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of times around the holidays, you get a lot of those kind of calls where family members come in, and it can be chaos. Mm-hmm. And I went, it was a lot of work, but that took me, a little bit longer because it's out of another jurisdiction, and you have to go to another person's jail. It's just a lot of paperwork, but, and who knows in the end if she's going to cooperate, but at least it fixed the problem, and that's where I put a Band-Aid on it, and that's what I care about.
Now, have you ever seen the situation where somebody calls in saying, hey, I got hit, but then you show up and the person that allegedly hit that person is the one that actually has visible injuries, whereas the one who called in saying they got hit was like perfectly fine with that scratch?
I had a deal recently. This lady called in, and I call it the witching hour. And it's like between us, like 2:30-ish and 4 o'clock, it's like chaos. It's like the city erupts with calls.
And that's PM?
Yeah. So oh man, it just erupts. And I kept, you know what the witching hour is? You heard of that with kids and stuff, a certain time period, like, oh my God, that's how the city is. So I tell the guys, it's the witching hour. So a lady calls in and says she got beat up. We get there. Her nose is kind of jacked up, but I mean, I don't know what happened. And I'm talking to her, and this really big dude, like big dude. He looked like an NFL lineman. He comes walking out and he goes, well, hold the phone, big old hands. He's like, hold the phone. He goes, that's not what happened. He goes, I lunged at her and scared her, and she jumped back and she hit the wall. Well, you can see this black streak that's going down like the wall. And I stopped and thought, that looks like mascara. Like your face drug down the wall. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. No blood. She had her nose is like dried blood.
Yeah.
So for blood to dry, that takes a little bit. Okay, that's not within minutes. That's usually that's a long time usually. I don't know the medical time, but
yeah,
it's not something that like she just said it just happened. I'm like, I don't know. But her nose was broken. I mean, it looked broken. It was swollen. This guy, and he goes, look, man. And he made a solid point. He's like, so you mean to tell me she calls in, I go to jail? I'm like, well, she's got visible injuries, man. He goes, well. And he had a blood, like dried blood on his arm. I don't know how it got there. He said he was trying to help her. He goes, I'm telling you, and he was a big guy. He made the one point he did make was, if I truly wanted to hit her and hurt her, I would have knocked her out. And I went, that's a good point. I mean, but I can't go, oh, I just put those statements in the report.
Yeah.
I mean, he's uttering things and he's telling me this. And I just put that in there just because I'm like, that is a valid point.
Yeah.
But sorry, man, like you did this, and that's just the way it is. Like you're going to jail. And he was okay with it. I mean, the other guys that showed up with me, they were a little nervous because he was a big guy. And he goes, take me to jail. Like, I just have to fight this out in court and stuff. And I'm like, I guess you will. I mean, I don't lose any sleep over it. Those people put themselves in those situations where, you got to be careful, like who you're out there with. And I mean, just be careful. I mean, you don't know what people are capable of, and he, I mean, had he not picked that girl, they'd only been together for a little while, but still, it didn't matter. Like she had a number. I think maybe a part of me wants, like the little Jiminy Cricket on my shoulder wants to say, hey, that makes sense that he did fall. Yeah. She probably did fall, but I can't prove it otherwise. And I have to go off facts and things like that.
And you're not the person to prove it either.
No. So, I mean, I'm not the judge and jury. I just have charges, and then we walk on our way. So the world out there needs to understand that, when we are out there working, I mean, we have to go off of what we know or what facts we have, evidence. But if we don't have enough to go on, we're not going to arrest you, typically, or, investigate, what we need to do. So, but I mean, that was a good question. I mean,
yeah, like, cause I bring that up because I've heard a story, from a friend who lived a rougher life before, I'd known him, and he was with his, ex-wife now. And she had taken, I think it was like a tire iron or something metal, and hit him upside the head with it. Put big old gashes, like he was bleeding just below his eye. It clearly had been hit. And then he had just grabbed that thing after she had hit him and twisted it and pulled it out of her hands as she storms off and calls the cops and says that, well, he was assaulting me. So the cops show up and they see him with this bloody face and her who nothing wrong with her, and they take him to jail. And they're like, look, I get it. She doesn't have any injuries, you do, but she's the one who called. It was like, well,
all right. Sometimes it always worked that way.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think in that instance it did, and I think it was just because of the cops that were in the situation. But what would dictate, like, what could you change if you are able to change anything in that instance that say, hey, wait, I don't know if this actually happened the way you're saying it did?
Well, I mean, you got to look at it like every time I get a call and I deal with like domestic stuff like that or situations, it's like there's always, I tell everybody, just in life, this is the advice I always say, there's three sides to every story. So, I mean, sometimes, in that situation, I mean, he would have visible injuries. And I mean, I might have taken them both, but he had the injuries. Whether she's sitting there saying it was self-defense, and that might have been a thing. She might have been saying, I was defending myself, and he came at me. But I don't know. So, I mean, just because someone calls in doesn't necessarily mean that, in my eyes, that someone's going to go to jail. Because we get that a lot. We get a lot of people like, hey, this guy needs to go to jail. I'm like, for what? Well, okay, for instance, the other day, average day call. Someone calls in, a guy wearing a camouflage coat, drinking a Red Bull. I didn't know that was illegal. Did you?
No.
So why would someone call in about that? A suspicious call. Okay, is he carrying an AK? I mean, he's walking down the street, drinking a Red Bull and a camouflage jacket. I mean, what do you do there? I mean, do you drive up to him and say, hey, man, what's up? No, I don't. I'm like, I drive over there and I make sure he don't have an AK or he's peeking in, windows or something. I mean, it's not illegal to walk down the street carrying a Red Bull, drinking it, or wearing a camouflage jacket. There's nothing in. He could have been in white sheets with the hood on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and there's nothing we can do about that. That's freedom of speech. So the Constitution is there, people. You need to learn the Constitution. And maybe in the future, maybe we could break it down for you and have some episodes on the different articles and some case law so everyone understands, just some knowledge moments maybe. Maybe we'll do a knowledge episode or something in the future. I don't know. But understanding the Constitution is very important for every individual because, and two, ignorance of the law is no excuse. I mean, that falls under everywhere too. Like if you say, well, I didn't know. Well, you're supposed to know. You're a citizen. The media puts it out there and stuff like that. So, but that situation of your buddy, I mean, that's a hard one because I've had situations like, the R word calls of that. You're like, what?
Yeah.
And we put guys in jail, and I'm like, I don't think there's enough evidence here to do that, and we done it, and that will stick in your career. That'll stick. That goes in your folder.
Yeah.
That goes in your jacket, and it's like, what if this guy wanted to be? He was truly a good dude, and he was trying to become a police officer, or something. He went to college for it, and now he's screwed. But I also tell young people, be careful what you do. Don't go out to no club and just be careful.
Yeah.
That's what you got to do everywhere.
I've seen where it's not even being charged with it, not just being like somebody coming out and saying, hey, this happened, whether it's true or not, has ruined people. It's ruined their reputations. It's ruined their careers. And that's the one thing that I've always done is I was always very careful about situations that I put myself in. And because I'm fearful for if there's not a chance to have proof that you can deny something and you put yourself in a situation where somebody could make an accusation against you and you can't disprove it, you're absolutely screwed.
Yeah, and I've come across calls like that where I'm trying to do, a supervisor was like, hey, we have to, this girl is nuts. I mean, she's not making any sense. And, we have a lot of witnesses that are participating that have seen her behavior and what she was saying. So we were trying to, gather enough evidence to make sure that this guy wasn't going to get falsely accused.
Yeah.
I mean, if she truly was, and I get it sometimes, and I'm not dogging people. If you ever have a situation, because here's the thing, statistically, a lot of those kind of attacks go completely undocumented. They don't ever bring them up. The true real ones that happen, those people don't come forward. And if something like that happens, you should come forward. That is not right for someone to take that away from you or attack you like that. So you need to come forward and you need to follow through with the law. I mean,
absolutely.
And I encourage, if anything happens to you, really, it's just a struggle sometimes, and I'm not switching gears, but whenever, as an officer, we go out there and do the work and we get complaints of there's people breaking in our cars, there's doing this in the neighborhood, or there's a lot of trespassers, there's vagrants, and y'all don't do anything. Yeah, we do. I can't do pre-crime, Minority Report and go, oh, it's going to happen in 5 minutes, and get over there. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
We try to go out there and suppress the area. I've caught a lot of burglars, but 9 times out of 10, they're like, well, I don't think I'm going to prosecute, and I'm like, what? I caught this guy. I risked my life. I went over there. I got in a tussle with him. I'm trying to do the right thing because you guys were complaining that your house is broken into. Come on. Back me up here, Well, I feel bad. Why do you feel bad? Why should you feel bad that person decided to make a conscious decision with free will and go commit a crime against you? That just bugs me so bad. It's like you don't, if you're in the situation, because all we hear is about, man, you guys aren't doing your job. What is my job then? You tell me. And that's a big, stressor there of situations where you come in contact with these businesses, there's just so much. And I'm like, well, then arrest them. sign tickets, help me out.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. But, I always try to tell people, I'm like, look, don't think about their suffering. They're not going to suffer. They need to be held accountable for their actions, because if it was my son, or say my son someday does something dumb, I'm going to tell the people, well, he needs to be held accountable for his actions. Even now, if we go to a store and he happens to take something like a piece of gum or something, we stop what we're doing, we go back in, he is severely punished, and he has to go apologize and tell them, I stole this. That should be ingrained at a young age to prevent that kind of stuff happening down the road. But I mean, on a serious note, we're kind of having a serious conversation now, but
yeah.
but
So back to your average day. What are you looking at as far as time wise? Like, when are you getting up? When are you? I know you have some sort of roll call that you do. What is your time looking like that before you actually get out into the streets and you're 10-8?
We start at 7, so 7 to 7:10. Like, they do briefings where they talk about, they're kind of pointless. I mean, it's like stuff that happened. I mean, we're in a technology age. That kind of stuff came from back in the day when they didn't have email, cell phones, computers. They would show up, you get inspected, and then you would get, like, they had radios. My dad was saying they had radios that you would go grab, and then you would go available. And then you'd come back in for the night and they'd check you back in and make sure we're accountability and things. But now, I mean, there's GPS, there's email. I mean, if you need to tell your troops something, you just call them like, hey, take care of this, I mean, there's messaging. I mean, we have a lot of stuff on the computer that we deal with that there's no need. We should be able to just jump in a car, log into their system that dispatch says we're there, and we just go patrol. And typically, I mean, my average day, I leave the station. I usually get fuel beforehand, and we try to eat breakfast, because throughout the day you really don't have time to eat lunch, or you don't really have time to do anything. You could be hooked up. I mean, it usually starts off pretty mellow. You'll take a few little calls. Sometimes you might have to relieve like the night shift if they have like an
ongoing
like a scene or something. You may have to go in, or like one morning, a narcotics team got on the radio and said, hey, we need a unit to stop this car. Give me a call. So I posted up with them and did some surveillance with them and monitored and watched the car leave. And he didn't have a tag that checked his car, so I had probable cause to stop the car. And it led to a lot of big drug seizures. So you might get stuff like that. You might, I mean, when I worked night shift, it was a little different, because you would go out, you go get fuel, and I would start the hunting game. I would just start going into like my areas, my districts, or the areas I like to, high crime areas, if you will. I would go in there and just start, being nosy, and just find traffic violations, maybe hop out on people, jump out on people on bikes, get their information, just start digging, looking for drug houses. I would just, and then sometimes I would go get like warrants, where I get a stack of warrants, and I would verify people, and we would go hunting. We were like a fugitive task force, and I was pretty successful at that. I will say that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. It was like the cat and mouse situation where it was fun, and I got pretty good at it to where I had pictures of people. And one day I was driving down the road. We're actually going to a house to see if this guy's there. And as I'm driving, there's a guy walking down the street, and I just pull over, and they go, what? And I said, that guy's got a felony warrant. And they're like, no way. And I'm like, bet. I walk up to him and say, hey, is your name Thomas? Yeah, how do you know? Boom, you got a warrant. And I see it on the sheet. I go, that's him. And he had like 3 warrants. And he goes, oh, wow, man. And he was just going up to the gas station to get a drink. I mean, like a soda. So, I mean, there was like, man, dude, like, you're getting good at this. I'm like, well, I mean, you see the same name over and over and over, and you read reports, and yesterday's criminal is today's victim. Like, they all broke in that day, and then you're like, oh, I'll take this report. I know who that is. He's got a warrant. And you start talking to him, and then you're like, hey, man, cool, I'll take this report. Oh, by the way, you're going to jail. You have a warrant. I mean, but it was always fun. Like, they do, this one city recently did like free tickets to a football game.
Mm-hmm.
And they won on the radio, and that's on the radio, and they call them, you won, and they show up. And, they get and they take them to custody and stuff. And it was all like child support stuff. These guys owe several $1,000s in child support. So it was pretty funny. I mean, it was like, oh man, snap. But, and they warn people they're going to do it. It's just people don't pay attention, Just like if you ever hear about roadblocks, okay, we don't do those. The bigger agencies do. Sometimes small municipalities do, but they have to announce somewhere in the media, where it's newspaper, internet, whatever, that there's going to be a roadblock. So they give notice. So that's your warning, okay? And if you don't pick up on that and you drive through one and you get stopped, and you don't have your stuff together.
And that's like the DUI checkpoint.
Yes. Yeah. And you could very well get arrested. So you have to be prepared for that. I mean, just read up on stuff, pay attention, I mean, and I'm one to talk. I don't look into the news a lot. I found out today there was a situation down in New Orleans, and that was a terrorist deal. And I'm thinking, oh crap, my dad called me on it. I was like, oh god, but I didn't know. And he goes, man, you gotta watch the news. I'm like, I don't care. But that was a bad deal. I mean, it was like a legit terroristic attack. They claimed that they were a certain group. And that was a bad deal. So that brings me, people pay attention out there. Head on a swivel. If you're in a big area, a big event, be looking around. Don't just be naive to the fact of things. Look for something. If you see something that's out of place, suspicious, say something. See something, say something. It's nothing we have never, like I talked about earlier, with the guy walking down the road with Red Bull. We still checked on it. You know what I mean? We went out there, made sure the guy wasn't committing a crime, if you will, but always be mindful. I mean, the police will always respond no matter what. We get calls all the time, and we have to take them.
You'll always put eyes on the scene.
Yeah, I mean, and
anything's going on or not.
People only knew the calls we take. I mean, just ridiculousness, and it's a lot of it. We can educate you and explain things of like, well, that's not legal, that is legal, that's civil, and stuff like that. So, but we do go out, because my thing is, say that one time you don't go out, or you don't go check into it and something bad happens. That's not good. I mean, I feel like that there's been intel out there that's came in that we missed, as a law enforcement group as a whole, or agencies miss, and then something happens. It's like, man, I don't want that on my conscience. And I do think about that whenever I'm out there working. I'm like, oh man, this call's dumb, stupid. And you're like punching the ceiling, and then you realize, oh, go check it out and make sure it's still good.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But I mean, that's a good way to go, is like you investigate everything thoroughly, because you never want to miss something.
Right. And we owe it to the public. I mean, the public does pay us to do that, but I want to clarify something though. I wish the public would understand, and listeners out there, that, yes, I do sign up for things to go into battle, if you will, but I didn't sign up to get killed. Okay, and I'm not expendable, and no officer is. They have families, they're human, and I think that some people think, because there's a lot of officers that are going to go into battle. If it's an active shooter, I'm the first one through the door. I think I'm there to save people and help people. I get that. But, I think that we don't put enough notice out there when officers do get killed in the line of duty. We don't mention anything. We don't say anything. I mean, it's like we're more concerned about this guy over here, making them a martyr, versus a guy, you're making that officer out to be a possible murderer or whatever, or just bad. You're just totally just discrediting them and everything, and there are bad police officers, there's bad nurses, bad teachers, whatever, bad judges, all around.
Yeah.
But, let's don't think about that like that. We should always be thinking, hey, that person, I look at beyond that. I look at like, damn, and that guy's got friends. That guy's got a family. He's got a wife, husband, whatever, kids. I mean, and now they have to have Christmas, or the next Christmas is without that person, and it's rough. That's what's rough on me. And I try to learn from it, like I'm not going to do that next time, but that's something to think about too. And with the new year coming, maybe I don't do New Year's resolutions. I kind of quit doing that kind of stuff. But, maybe for a podcast resolution, we could try to come up with some. We're going to try to get more guests,
Yes.
of course. That's the goal. We're going to try to get back on it too. I'm trying to. And another goal, maybe mid-year or earlier, is try to get. I'm going to build a new lounge area for the podcast, and then I'd like to do video.
Yes.
We could do video and maybe have people on it, and
you can see our ugly mugs on the big screen.
See a voice, with
our
the face
with a voice.
face with a voice. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got that confused there. Mm-hmm. But and you can kind of see the place we do it from and where it come from and see us as a person. So.
Yes, I absolutely agree. And there are big things coming in 2025. It's not resolutions, it's a plan, and it is in place, and we are well on our way to it. I know you've been working hard and trying to get everything ready to start building the upstairs lounge, and then we're going to have a backdrop, everything. We're going to have a nice little lounge set up that we can comfortably shoot these, and we can keep rolling and hopefully get you that video here soon.
Yeah. And try to expand a little bit more, and maybe get some more guests on. I really like to do that. We got to get some more guests on here.
Yes, yeah,
and it could be anybody. If there's anybody out there that's in the area that want to be a guest, reach out to us, man. We can hear your story, and I really like to get in there and start digging into people and asking questions because I'm always curious.
Even then, of course, we have our Facebook. Send us a message, and even if you don't want to actually come on and say your story, just type it out, and we can easily read these on the podcast, and
absolutely,
and let people hear your stories. I know there's a big project around late April that I am really looking forward to, and I think it's going to be probably a several part series, and I really want to go into depth on it, and I don't want to spoil it too soon, but I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do.
I think it's going to be a very, very good little mini series that we'll do.
Absolutely. Yeah, that'll be a good time.
Yeah. So
something in depth and serious, and there'll be some good stories, hopefully.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Well, this has been the Salty Sarge Podcast. You can find us on Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcast, other places. Go there, look, you'll find us. We're there.
Absolutely.
All right. We appreciate you listening, and we will see you on the next one.
Absolutely. Have a safe time, everybody.
Happy 2025.
2025. Woo! Woo!